Welcome to the Hawkins Observer, a podcast where two half-lifelong friends recap and analyze every episode of Stranger Things as we prepare for the release of the final season in just a few days.
As always, we'll give you a scene-by-scene recap discussing the plot and developments, as well as sharing our thoughts, memories, and reactions.
This episode is obviously special. Not only is it the season ender, we're recording it together again. Insert handshake. It's you.
So grab some running shoes, fireworks, and maybe a box of tissues because here comes Season 3, Episode 8, the finale, The Battle of Starcourt.
What a good one.
Yes.
Many reasons why we're glad it's not the last season, but boy, does it. There's some finality towards the end of this.
Yeah.
Look, I'll be straight with you. If you don't subscribe soon, you're going to miss out on some amazing things coming up very soon. So,
yeah, if you've gotten bored with our format, then
it's about to all change.
That's right.
We're going to start being sponsored by various NA beers.
Yeah.
Got some sponsorship deals coming in.
We hope. Yeah, we've got the period appropriate old Milwaukee with the original 80s
Yeah, that's true.
logo.
I bet you if we'd looked closely, Hopper might have been drinking some OMs.
Probably not the NAs.
Probably not the NAs. Nope. Okay.
Here we go.
This episode starts with Joyce, Hopper, and Murray are speeding into Hawkins to get to the mall because that's where they think the kids are based on that Russian transmission that on the stolen Russian radio they now have. Sure enough, at the mall, the kids are there, and Eleven is in a lot of pain because there's something moving in her leg. Jonathan has an idea. He runs to one of the food court little restaurants. He grabs a giant knife and then heats it over a stove, presumably to sterilize it, or maybe he knows these things don't like heat, but he heats the knife up and he puts on a glove, and as the hot knife gets close to her leg, whatever is inside her leg actually kind of shrinks away from the heat of the knife. And then Mike just says, "Do it." So with a gloved hand, Jonathan makes an incision with the knife in Elle's leg, and then he uses his finger to reach inside and tries to get out that thing. She's biting on a wooden stick and just screaming still. And eventually she spits the stick out. "Stop, stop, stop." Then she's like, "I can do it." So she sits up, still in a lot of pain, and she uses her powers to slowly extricate the strange gooey invader from her leg. And it takes so much of her power, and she pulls it out and gets it up in the air, and then a storefront window behind them shatters because she's using so much of her energy, and she's got it, and she casts this thing down and it flops in the food court, and this thing starts to slither away now that it's outside of her leg. But before it can slither too far, it gets stepped on by Hopper. Hopper, Joyce, and Murray have arrived at the mall.
What a great
roll credits.
What a great opening scene. I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I did notice that. I just noticed this rewatching it a second time. When Hopper steps on it, they allowed some of it to splatter onto the camera. The camera that sees Hopper's foot stepping on it, I noticed that it went like on the camera.
I don't think that's the only time they use the camera splatter. I think there was another scene at some point where there's splatter on the camera. But Jonathan knows exactly what to get. He goes, jumps over the counter at some, Chinese restaurant or whatever. And he goes into a drawer. He grabs a wooden spoon, a chef's knife, and then he turns the gas stove on to heat up the knife. Yep. Presumably, like you said, because he knows that the Mind Flayer hates heat, but he also knows that it sterilizes it and it self-cauterizes the skin as he cuts. But as he's going, it's so hard to watch because he's literally like digging his fingers underneath Eleven's skin, and she is just, I don't even know how she doesn't pass out, but she finally just says, I can do it, as if to say like, maybe I couldn't have done it before. Either her battery was recharging, or she just didn't think that she could bring herself to do it. But
to inflict a wound on yourself, to do a surgery on yourself, that probably, I mean, that wouldn't be the first thing
now that it's open
you.
and she can access it, she can do it. But so now not only are all the kids together, now Hopper and Murray especially, like Murray doesn't know these kids.
Oh, it's true. He's never, he knows Jonathan and Nancy because they brought the story. But
like the younger kids, like 11 and Dustin and Steve and Robin and everybody that's there except for Jonathan and Nancy. Like they don't know what they don't know what to do with Murray.
They sure don't. Now that they're all together, the kids start trying to explain what they think's going on. And their guess is that the Mind Flayer built this monster in this world to kill 11. And then Jonathan asks some clarifying questions, and he's like, so the fluffy spider thing is made up of melted people? And Nancy's like, yes. And Jonathan's like, okay, I get it now. As if like, okay, I thought that's what it was, but they discuss the need once again that they have to close the gate to cut the head off from the body, which should kill the monster. But Murray wasn't listening. He was somewhere else, and he starts coming up to them going, yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo. So he's got some paperwork with some maps, thinking, okay, here's where this laser is. Here's where they probably hide the keys. But he misunderestimates how big this area is, and Erica speaks up to correct them because she's just spent the past 24 hours down there, and she's, Murray and Erica have a little bit of a headbutting, but Erica kind of headbutts anybody.
Why is this 4-year-old talking to me?
Why is this 4-year-old? And she calls him a bald bastard. Then Dustin's like, can I explain? And Dustin explains there's an air duct system, and that's the easiest way to get from point A to point B to sneak behind the Russians' line. And Dustin says, we'll be your navigators. Like, me and Erica know the way, so we'll navigate you guys. And then he's like, we'll let you do the hero shit, Hopper, but like, we'll be there with you. And Hopper goes, no. So Dustin has a moment with Mike, Lucas, and Will, and they all agree they could have used each other's help in their individual battle zones and that they missed each other, so it's a nice little party reunion. So Hopper tells the kids, okay, you can navigate, but it's going to have to be from someplace safe. And Dustin says, these walkie-talkies don't work that way. It needs a stronger signal. And he said, what we really need is a tower on the highest point of Hawkins. And he's like, oh, wait, I've built that. So he's like, but we need a car to get there right now. So the keys from the Toddmobile are given to Steve. And so Robin, Steve, Eric, and Dustin are still a team for some reason. They're going to all leave them all together and head towards the high hill where Dustin's built Cerebro. Mari, Joyce, and Hopper agreed that the rest of the kids need to go to Murray's house and just lay low. Will's very worried about his mom, but she insists everything's going to be fine. Hopper and 11 have a kind of a tender father-daughter moment as they're about to say goodbye to each other for a little while. They agree that 11's the best fighter, but Hopper wants her to be safe because this thing is specifically after her. After the kids all walk out, Hopper's kind of stunned because Joyce is still there, and apparently the plan was Joyce was going to go with them, but then Joyce and Murray start explaining, no, this isn't a 2-man operation. This is about to be a 3-man operation.
Yeah, it's funny when Murray's got the kind of the blueprints, the schematics for the underground, whatever, duct system, and he's like, it's probably 30, 40 feet. And Erica's like, no.
More like 500.
It's like a quarter mile.
Yeah.
And Murray's just like, who is this child? And why is this 4-year-old talking to me?
Yeah.
And again, it's Hopper like jumping to immediately a very black and white kind of simplistic solution. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And now it's Dustin. I think last episode it was somebody else, but Dustin says, no, that's not how it works. it was Bob Newby last season.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like, no, you can't just go down to the basement and reset the breakers and that fixes everything.
That's true.
That's just the first step of what we need to do. Everything else will take more time. So Dustin explains what they actually need to do. So
That's true.
They have a plan, and the different kind of outfits have been established. One outfit's going to the hill to be the navigators. One outfit's going down to the tunnels, and the rest of them are staying presumably in the kind of main area of Starcourt.
Well, they want them to go to Murray's house because nobody knows where that is. There's a scene where
that's
Murray
right.
is showing Jonathan and Nancy, this is the key for my top lock, this is the key for the middle lock. So they basically they want
I forgot
11.
about that.
They want 11 to get to Murray's house where.
She's out of the way and safe.
Yep.
Yep.
So they try this. These kids file back out to the station wagon, but it won't start. And everyone starts questioning Nancy. Like, did you leave the lights on? No. Does it have gas? No.
Yeah.
She's just like so frustrated with them. But anyway, Jonathan says, pop the hood. They look under the hood and the ignition cable is gone. At the same moment, we hear a Camaro firing up in the parking lot. Billy is there waiting for them. I don't know why he's sitting there, what his plan is, but he's just kind of angrily sitting there revving the engine as the kids see him and run back into the mall.
Yeah. You know, it says rubbing the engine. I just love to see Billy just like
Big old V8.
pretty
Big
Camaro.
old V8 vroom vroom with the.
I mean, it's so weird. He's just sitting there in it, revving the engine and just staring them down, almost as if he's in conflict inside his own head.
Yep.
Like, they don't give any indication of that other than just the fact that Billy isn't putting it in gear and gunning it.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there revving.
Or maybe he's just literally there to keep an eye on where 11 is, and he thinks if he scares them, they'll just stay put.
Yeah.
And that's his only job right now, is to be the eyes for the mind.
Yeah, that's just as good of an explanation as anything. But the kids are kind of sitting ducks here because they can't start the car. So what you were saying of getting them to Murray's house isn't possible.
Yeah.
Because they can't get. They don't. The only method of transportation, because the mall's closed. There's no other cars in the parking lot that
Yeah.
they could hotwire or whatever. But yeah, Jonathan thinks, well, let's pop the hood and see what's going on, and he immediately recognizes.
Something's missing.
Yeah, he's probably had to do a lot of car work because he drives that POS.
He's the man of the family. Murray, Joyce, and Hopper are now in the world's fastest descending elevator. They're heading down to the Russians' lair, and they're reviewing the plan. But as they're talking about it, Joyce and Hopper start to bicker again, and Murray calls them children and tries to silence them again. He says this has a perfect score of a B. It's going to be fine. And if this plan works, the Russians will never know we were here. And as he says that, they arrive at the bottom, the doors open, and there's some Russians that immediately know that they're there.
Yep.
But Murray takes charge and he starts speaking in his Russian perfectly. He's like, please don't shoot, don't shoot. We were sent here by the lieutenant. We've got this important papers. He called us last minute. Sorry we look like this, but we're here to give the lieutenant some paperwork. And the Russians are like, which lieutenant? And he's like, Molotov? And they're like, and then Hopper's like, that's a bad answer. So Hopper pushes Murray aside and guns down this row of like 4 or 5 Russian soldiers. And Murray's like, Jim, I had it under control. And Jim's like, nah. So he starts improvising. And he's like, Jim puts on a Russian hat, from one of the soldiers. So
Yeah.
Jim has a new improvised idea.
Well, Hopper has gone from law-abiding police chief to just trigger-happy vigilante. I mean,
That's true.
he pulls the trigger on the Strangler, even though the Strangler ducks out of the way several episodes ago. And then he absolutely open fires on the Strangler's chest in the funhouse. So, like, Hopper's not afraid now to do whatever's necessary, and he doesn't even really wait for it to go south.
Right.
He's kind of preemptive here.
Absolutely.
Where they're just standing there going, I'm not happy with that Molotov answer. And Murray doesn't say it very convincingly either. He's like, Molotov? So Hopper's like, this is going to go south and I'm not going to let it. So he just one-hands his AR, just...
Yep. Mows them down. Is the
Yes,
only way to say
exactly.
it,
And
really.
now they are going to be donning these Russian outfits.
Back in the car with Dustin, Erica, Robin, and Steve. They're heading out to the country a little ways, heading towards the high hill as that song, Lifting Me Higher, starts playing. Erica also suspects that Susie's not real, and Steve doesn't really quickly come to Dustin's defense, but Steve has no proof she's real either. All of a sudden, Dustin's like, turn here. And Steve's like, there's no road. And Dustin's like, turn left now. So Steve cuts in, breaks through a fence, and they start going up a hill in this convertible Cadillac. And it just gets bogged down on the hill. It doesn't really, I mean, it makes it halfway up maybe, but it's not an off-roader. Yeah,
it only makes it halfway up the hill. And it's like through some thick brush and stuff anyway. But they got most of the way there. Yeah. They're going to have to hoof it on foot from here on, but...
I should have prefaced this whole episode by saying, like, the things that take place in this episode might as well have taken place over the course of only 10 minutes or 15 minutes if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's just that these three separate storylines are kind of playing out on their own in some ways. They're all playing out at the same time, but so much is happening to each party or each,
Well, and I mean... like you were just saying with the elevator scene with Murray and Hopper and Joyce, that's happening at the same time as Steve and Erica and Dustin are in the Cadillac. So
at the same time, the kids are running away from Billy back into the mall.
And so they obviously can't show those at the same time, so they make three separate scenes of what happened within that 10-minute span. And that continues throughout pretty much the rest of this episode.
It reminds me back in the day when we watched 24... and there would be an actual time clock.
Yeah.
And it would switch scenes while the clock kept going, so you would know that this is implied that these two things are happening simultaneously. So
this whole episode takes place in the span of like just an hour, a couple hours.
Yeah, that's it. Back at the mall, Mike is trying to reach them, and apparently the kids on the hill, their moniker is Scoops Troop. Scoops Troop.
Love it.
And he's like, we need transportation. Basically, he's saying we have no way to get to the bald eagle's nest because we don't have a car now. So they're kind of using vague language. They're calling themselves by code so that if the Russians are listening in, they're not really giving away too much. But then they're like, what if Nancy makes a joke? Well, there's no way we're going to drive that LeBaron. But then Jonathan's like, but all we need is a starter cable. And maybe, if we could just get that thing back on its tires, we will be able to do that. 11's like, I can do it. So she tries to use her powers to shift the vehicle back onto its tires, and she can't.
Yeah.
So they end up having to use like leverage to like flip it back over to open the hood. Max notices that Nancy is loading a gun, and she goes, "You're going to kill him, aren't you?" And Nancy's like, it's just a precaution. And Will's like, because of Billy knows where we are, the Mind Flayer knows where we are.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that, and maybe in the mid-'80s, Chrysler and GM's ignition tables were similar enough. Or maybe Jonathan knows, or maybe the Duffer Brothers just don't care that anybody knows that.
Yeah,
but he's right. They don't need to drive the LeBaron. They don't need to figure out a way to get it drivable. They just need the one part off of it.
Right.
And they end up using like stanchions from the movie theater.
Yeah.
To like leverage it off. But plot-wise, the big thing here is that 11 now doesn't have her powers.
Yep.
Now, we just saw her use it to get that part of the Mind Flayer out of her leg. So it wouldn't be the first time we're seeing her not be able to use her powers in quick succession back to back.
Sure.
So and the car obviously is a massive object to move. So we're not necessarily concerned about that, but 11 seems to be.
Right. Maybe she's depleted, or maybe she's just recharging.
Or maybe something else has happened.
Yeah. We're back underground quickly. Murray, Hopper, and Joyce, they're in their new costumes as Russian soldiers, and they're driving one of those little Russian carts underground. And they pull up to a guarded door, and there's a Russian there being like, I don't recognize you guys. And Murray's like, we just got here yesterday. And like, how does that line work? And the Russian guard goes, prepare to say goodbye to the sun. And then Murray just starts making jokes about it. Who needs sun when I've got you, comrade? And I've got a bottle of vodka. And they laugh about that. And the guard waves him through into this protected area. They get to the room where all of those green vials are stored, and Murray is not looking forward to crawling through the air ducts. And about that time, the Scoops troop calls in asking for Bald Eagle.
I love that his call sign is Bald Eagle because he does have that very iconic bald head. And Murray in this scene is also not thrilled that his call sign is Bald Eagle. Like he didn't determine that for himself, obviously.
Yeah, not happy with that moniker.
But Murray's Russian is good enough to get him past this guard. I think in the last scene when Hopper mowed all those guys down, I think Murray thought that he could have gotten out of that too. But Hopper didn't let him.
No. The kids have finally gotten the car flipped over. But as they're doing that, we notice that 11 is digging through a trash can. And what she was looking for is an empty can of Coke. And she has a flashback, or we have a flashback with her, of one of her first superpower miracles back in the lab when she was a little kid. That first time she used her mind to crush a can. So she's trying that again now because she knows she's done it before. For whatever reason, she can't crush the can with her mind. As she's doing that, poor Will has his neck sensation that he knows something is nearby.
Yep.
And we start to hear some strange sounds, and they start to kind of look towards the ceiling. And Mike knows somehow what's about to happen. He yells at Nancy, and they all take off running as the 30-foot tall, fleshy spider drops from the ceiling and is now inside the mall in the food court.
Yeah, the ceiling of the mall, if you're not familiar with the episode, but if you are familiar with any mall anywhere, is one of those big, like, peaked kind of glass ceilings. And this thing, I guess Mike sees it kind of from the outside.
Yeah, maybe.
Like stomping around. It's obviously compromising the structural integrity of that glass, and it breaks through. But 11 is worried because, like I said, we might think, well, she's just depleted and she needs to be her battery recharged. But 11 seems to know that something else is going on because she might be able to feel like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I can use my powers. But as she concentrates on, what would be the equivalent of just nothing. Like
easy
it's,
for her.
Yeah, day one stuff, she can't do it.
I feel like a couple times now or coming up, when she tries, she still gets a nosebleed.
Yeah.
But her powers
doesn't work. So I think as an audience too, we're like, all right, well, we know this is a finale episode.
Yeah.
In both other seasons, 11 has been the hero at the very end to solve whatever is the problem.
Yeah.
She closed the gate at the end of season 2. She was there to end the Demogorgon at the end of season 1. But here it's like she might be on the bench.
That's right. Okay.
On the bench is a sports reference.
I thought it was a music reference. Like, if you can't get first or second chair.
No. On the bench means that you're not in the starting lineup for the Sporty Hoops match.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's weird because when I was in marching band, they made me sit the bench. That's not been that good.
Well, I sat the bench in both scenarios, so.
We cut back to the elevator shaft, and who steps off? The Russian Strangler and his friends step off, and they see a bunch of bodies laying around. And
Hot on the trail.
And there's some soldiers there like, we just found them like this too. Murray's somewhere in the air ducts because Joyce and Hopper are by themselves, and they're still bickering. But then all of a sudden, Hopper just takes a turn, and he levels with her. And he's like, you know what? Despite all this fighting, I think we actually make a pretty good team. And that kind of disarms the situation because then Joyce jokingly asks, does that mean I got the job? Like Detective Byers? And Hopper's like, you can't really be a detective here if you don't live here. Like, that's still your plan,
Great.
right? And then Joyce is like, you know what? If we actually survive this, we deserve to celebrate, right? And Hopper's like, yeah, of course. And so then Joyce basically says, all right, if we survive this, pick me up at 7 p.m. on Friday for a date at Enzo's. And Hopper's just kind of bewildered, like, oh, like, now you're serious about it.
Yeah, I think he makes a little joke to her, too, about, like, I don't know, I think there's an Italian place in town, obviously alluding to the fact that he was stood up there and got absolutely wasted in that dining room just a few days ago. But it is a great moment right in the middle of all this chaos and this tension and what's going to happen. Part of that is like Joyce and Hopper just can't seem to get on the same page. And Murray is kind of interjecting himself like, you guys just need to kind of get through with it.
Yeah.
And yet here they are putting their guards down and just kind of, like you said, leveling with each other.
Yeah.
That maybe there actually is something there. Now that there's not external pressure from Murray or anybody else.
It kind of did start as a jealous thing when Hopper mistook Joyce standing him up for actually wanting to spend time with Scott Clark.
Yeah.
And Hopper's just kind of been on this jealous streak ever since, and that started the bickering.
Yeah.
And they just haven't heard each other. Like, they've been
absolutely talking past each other. Well, and I think that if Hopper stopped for 1 minute to think about Joyce, I don't think he would have necessarily assumed or thought logically that she was actually interested in Scott Clark.
Yeah.
But again, it just goes to show you he wasn't listening to her.
But Murray's not helping the situation just by calling out their sexual tension.
And all Murray wants to do is kind of shut them up so that they can get on with the mission.
Yeah, that's true.
But Hopper and Joyce actually do have something to work out, and they do it here.
With the help of the Scoops troop, Murray continues to make progress through the air ducts. From their vantage point on that high hill, though, Steve notices that the mall lights are flickering. This is not good.
Yeah.
Dustin tries to call them on the radio, but when we cut to the mall, the noise of the radio attracts the fleshy spider. He's not really the mind flayer now. It's not the mind flayer. What do we call? It's just the monster.
Yeah, you're right.
The monster the mind flayer has made.
Yeah, the goo monster.
The goo monster. So the radio. The monster notices the sound of the radio and picks up the radio and looks at it for a hot second, but then throws the radio and pretty much almost destroys it. We also learn in this scene, I think, for the first time that the code for all the other kids that were supposed to be going to Murray's house, their code name is the Griswolds. Which is so funny because they were driving the old Wheeler station wagon.
And they say it with no irony either. No. It's like all business.
It's probably a recent movie for them, too.
For sure.
So it's like the Griswold station wagon. One of the last things we hear Dustin saying from the vantage point of the broken walkie in the mall is like, "Are you en route to the Bald Eagle's nest? Are you en route?" And the kids in the mall are just hiding behind things. Some are hiding behind the LeBaron that's flipped. Some are on the other side of a food counter, so they're just quiet, not making noise. Robin and Steve set off like on foot. I assume that they were just going to try to run all the way back if the car was stuck. And Dustin throws Robin an extra walkie-talkie, and Steve is in hero mode again. It comes very naturally to him, but he's like, I'm going back to get them out. Like, he's on the way to the mall to get the kids out of the danger.
Steve is kind of like the Hopper character for the younger kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like Hopper's Hopper for the whole shooting match.
Yeah.
But Steve is kind of like the mini Hopper who's going to like be the hero. He knows what to do. He's got some sort of physical and athletic ability. Yeah. He's smart enough to get, but he's brave and he's courageous. And he's willing to put himself on the line, put his kind of life on the line for everybody.
That's true. When the series comes back out in 10 years from now, we won't be surprised if Steve is the deputy of the Hawkins Police Department.
That's true. And he will not think of that as a demotion. It'll be a big step up from Scoops Ahoy.
Sure will. All right. Back at the mall, the monster is just searching, looking around, however it senses things. It doesn't look to have eyes, but it's searching for things. And at one point, it walks over to where Hopper had stomped on that tiny piece that was stuck in Elle's leg. And the monster walks over towards it, and that piece of it just reassimilates into the rest of the fleshy monster. Like it sucks its thing back up. Mike, Max, and 11 decide they have to make a run for it, but they can't go upstairs because 11 can't do stairs. And then 11 is the one who's like, we can get out through the gap, because presumably she'd been shopping in there and remembers there's probably a way out.
I was thinking that she meant like the gap in the food court, or like the gap in the wall or something. And then it's like, no, it's the store, the gap.
Well, once again, she's broken the glass of the front of a building.
Yeah.
And as a result, she knows they can get in there. She's a really expensive person.
Yeah, glass wall or glass doors in front of businesses are like over 4 in this show.
So they do make a run for it, the 3 of them, but as they're going into the gap, they accidentally knock something over, causes a noise, and it draws the monster's attention. The monster goes up to this store, but it's too big to physically fit its whole being in there. So one of its little searching tentacles comes out and starts looking, sensing around the store. And it grabs what it thinks is a human, but it turns out it's a mannequin. It's actually wearing the same blouse that 11 is wearing, that yellowy thing.
Yep.
Bald Eagle makes the call that he has landed. He's arrived where he needs to be. Hopper's impatient and says, how long is this going to take? And Murray's like, I don't know. I've never done this before. So Murray finds the electrical panel, and this is our understanding, like he's going to cause some chaos by just pulling cables and unplugging things. And he finds it, and he tells the lovebirds that they're almost up to bat. Jonathan sees that the mind flare is fresh on the tracks of the 3 hiding in the gap. Meanwhile, Murray starts pulling these cables, and the laser starts malfunctioning, and one of the hazmat suit scientists that works really close to it, he slams the alarm button, and at that point, Joyce and Hopper enter the rest of the corridor where all the other soldiers are. In the mall, Lucas puts on his wrist rocket, and he fires at a balloon and perfectly hits it, and that is just enough time to distract the mind flare away from the 3 hiding kids in the gap. Jonathan, Nancy, and Lucas and Will make a run for it. They've got the ignition cable, so they make a run for it. Hopper and Joyce are now running the corridors with all the other Russians. They run upstairs into the observation room. Before they can get in there, a Russian asks them, did so-and-so send you? And they're doing what Murray told them to do. Just shake your head, nod yes. And he lets them pass. And then they reach the vault where the actual keys to turn on and off the laser are stored. They try to punch in a code, but it's the wrong code for the safe.
Yeah, they got Planck's constant from
Murray. That's coming up, yep.
But we knew that it was Planck's constant from the last episode. So they put it in and it's wrong. A couple things I love in this scene. One, Joyce running around in a Russian uniform that's 3 sizes too big. She's just tucked the whole thing into her pants.
Yeah, tucked her hair up into a hat.
So great. And nobody, I don't think that we really see any other female Russian people around. They don't really seem to be bothered that she's obviously a woman. But yeah, in the scene where the little scout tentacle is looking around, we even might think that what it grabbed was 11 because she is wearing that same yellow and black patterned shirt.
You don't like that I call it a blouse?
You called it a blouse.
Blouse? Isn't that the Nacho Libre of saying it?
Yeah. I think it's funny, too, that every time Lucas dons his wrist rocket, we're like, geez, come on.
Yeah.
Automatic rifles aren't stopping this thing. Right. He points it, he fires it, or he aims it right at the monster. And I'm just like, please don't make this work. Because, but then he moves it just a few degrees and pops that balloon. And it's like, every time he uses it, it works to some level.
Yeah.
At the end of season 1, he fires it, and the Demogorgon flings across the room. Yeah. Ends up being 11. But, yeah, so the kids have what they need to start the car, presumably. Jonathan's car, the station wagon, I guess, which is maybe Nancy's car, the Wheeler's car.
Yep.
And the kids have escaped in the gap from the Mind Flayer's monster. And the biggest problem right now is that Hopper and Joyce are where they need to be, but they don't have the code.
Yep.
Or they were wrong about it being Planck's constant.
Well, that would have been Alexi's fault, presumably.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
You're right.
Dustin overhears the problems they're having, that they've got the wrong number for Planck's constant. and he just starts switching his own radio frequency on Cerebro. Meanwhile, the kids are still running to get out of the mall. They install the ignition cable, but for some reason it's still not starting. Billy is still sitting out there waiting for them the whole time, and now with his Camaro, he charges at their station wagon. Nancy comes around the side of the station wagon and fires a pistol directly at Billy, but seemingly misses every time, even though it's going right through the windshield. She runs out of bullets, and it looks like it's the end of our kids.
Yeah.
Right at the last millisecond, Steve and Robin arrive and T-bone Billy's Camaro with the Toddmobile and knocks Billy off course. Somehow they must have gotten I guess the Cadillac was able to back out of its being stuck, but we get a sense that the creature also knows what's happening outside, maybe that Billy's been injured, because the creature then exits from the mall over the roof and starts to come down over and out front. But thankfully by this time they've got the station wagon started, and Robin and Steve jump in and they all speed away.
Yeah, this was a scene where I was like, okay, plot-wise, great. Steve and Robin came just in time and they saved the day. But practically speaking, we have a Camaro going 60 miles an hour maybe.
Yeah.
And then a convertible, that he doesn't see, T-bones him, and they're all just like fine.
Yeah.
But that's obviously it's a fantasy sci-fi kind of thing. So you give the storytellers a little bit of leeway in that, but
or maybe Steve was still a little drunk from his Russian drugging.
Him and Robin are just a little loosey-goosey. They just kind of absorb the impact.
And he goes, "Here, hold my beer," and just tries to 180 and ends up hitting Billy.
It works. But the Mind Flayer now is on top of the mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
and Billy didn't end up hitting them, but they're gone. So like they escaped.
Yeah,
thankfully, but we don't know what's going to happen.
Meanwhile, a bit of a jarring cut happens here. We go across the country to Salt Lake City.
I love this scene.
And there's a cute little girl in her bedroom reading a book, and across the radio, she hears someone calling. And it's Dustin calling for Susie. So it turns out she's real.
First time we ever see her.
The first time it's confirmed. He talks about her in the first episode.
They talk about her the whole... he talks about her the whole time.
But
and now every single one of his friends doubts that she was real. Anybody who did maybe assume that she was real at some point has all kind of just...
backpedaled.
It's almost canon now as an audience that Susie's not real.
Yeah. Erica speaks up. Susie hears it and she's like, "Who was that?" Dustin's like, I think it's interference. So let's change frequencies to this frequency. So they change over. Meanwhile, in the getaway station wagon, the monster is actually chasing them down the road.
It's crazy.
Dustin tries to rush this situation, like, "Susie, I really need your help here. I've been fighting Russians and monsters." And he's like, "I need to know what Planck's constant is." And she's like, "That you should know what that is." But she's like, "But I'm not going to tell you because you haven't been talking to me for the past several days." She's like, "Well, I'll tell you on one condition." And Dustin's like, No. And she's like, "Fine, then I'm signing off." And he's like, "Wait." And the condition is she wants to hear Dustin sing. And apparently they have a song together.
I want to hear it.
I want to hear it. So they start singing the song from Neverending Story, the theme song. So Dustin leads it, and then she comes in and sings with him, and they harmonize. But everyone is privy to this. Like, the kids in the station wagon can hear from the transmission. They're on Cerebro, so them in the basement can hear it. Like, Hopper's listening, Joyce, Murray's like, "What the heck is going on?" So after the song finishes, she just spouts off Planck's constant like it's the easiest thing in the world. Hopper punches it in and opens the safe.
This is one of those, we've had a few of these so far. One of these classic, like, 11 saying, "I dump your ass." Like, that was one of these Stranger Things, just became canon in popular culture.
Yeah.
So many of these little, like, really popular things. But this scene, my favorite thing is as the getaway station wagon is, like, screaming down the road, and the Mind Flayer goo monster is, like, lumbering behind them. We're hearing, "Reach the stars." It's so good, and like it's like echoing in the stainless steel ducts in the chambers in the basement, and everybody. It's like it just shuts the whole episode down for like 3 minutes while they sing the whole song.
Yeah,
in perfect harmony,
and key changes and all.
And the score of the show joins in.
Yeah. Now, I feel like this is a technical plot hole. Like, can radio? You can't. Those radios are like
You
one
can't
way, right?
Play over top of each other.
Yeah. So is that a bit of a technical snafu that we just allow them to have?
Maybe. I mean, this is a.
Maybe there's just something about Cerebro we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the frequency is so strong that it can, almost like an AM radio station.
You can talk both ways to each other. I don't know.
I thought the same thing, but I mean, never mind. It is to our benefit that they made that mistake.
It is a bizarre scene in the middle of a very serious episode.
Once Susie gives Planck's constant, it's almost as if like everybody just fires back up and Hopper puts it in and like the thing unlocks it.
And Erica pulls the plug and doesn't let Dustin talk to her anymore. She's sick of it already. It's a very Erica
so
thing
good.
to do.
And that's all we see of Susie.
Yeah. But she is real.
Yeah, but she's not Phoebe Cates hot, though. I mean, Dustin might have been exaggerating there.
So, Billy's Camaro is actually on fire at this time, and he kind of painfully extracts himself from the car when he spots Max and Mike escorting 11 out the mall, and they kind of spot him at about the same time, and they run back into the mall. Back in the station wagon, they're still being chased by the monster, except as if their monster is being summoned back by Billy. The monster turns around and starts to go back towards the mall. I imagine it's because Billy sees 11 and then triggers the monster. And then Jonathan pulls another sweet 180 in a wagon, and they also head back to the mall. Now that they open the safe, Hopper's got the keys. They enter the observation deck where there's still scientists like watching the laser, and he shoots his gun, orders everybody out. And they all run away, and he asks Joyce, "Are you ready to end this?" As they stare at, once again, an open gate to the Upside Down. In the back hallways of the mall, Max and Mike and 11 are now trying to escape from Billy coming into the mall, but Billy catches up with them while they're waiting for an elevator. Max tries to reason with Billy as he's approaching. She says, "You don't have to do this. This is who you are. This is who you are. This is who you're not." But Billy is in full flayed mode. He swats Max out of the way. He knocks Mike out. And then he knocks 11 out and picks her up and throws her over his shoulder and begins to walk away with her.
So this is what we feared when we see 11's lost her power. She's not able to defend herself because now she's just a regular 13-year-old kid.
Yeah. No powers.
So Billy's got her over his shoulder, and he, like you said, full flayed mode. Like his eyes have got, super dilated, and 11's incapacitated. Not only not using her powers, but like knocked out cold.
Knocked out. Hopper and Joyce insert their individual keys into the machine, and they're going to turn them off on 3, but Hopper takes too long to count to 3 because after he gets to 2, the Russian Strangler has arrived, and Hopper and the Strangler start fighting. The Strangler tosses Joyce across the room. The Russian Strangler and Hopper stumble out onto a stairway, and now they're like in the room where the actual laser is, and it looks like the Russian Strangler has the upper hand, and this might be the end of Hopper. At the same time, Billy is carrying Eleven's body into the food court, and he lays her down at the top of these steps as if it kind of looks like a sacrificial altar, the way these steps are elevated. Once again, Billy leans over her body like he has these other people and says, "Don't be afraid. It'll all be over soon. Try to be very still." Like, so freaking creepy. The lights are going crazy again. The monster re-enters the mall from the roof, and he approaches 11 as one of his tentacles emerges from his mouth hole. But before he can strike 11, the gang is back. All the kids are back in the station wagon, and now they've got the fireworks, Lucas's idea.
Yep.
And they start throwing fireworks at the monster, just lighting them off, and obviously the monster doesn't like heat, so this is a really great idea. Hopper and the Russian Strangler continue to fight while the kids continue to throw fireworks at each other. It's obvious that this is hurting the monster because Billy seemingly actually feels the pain of the fireworks in his own body. 11 tries to crawl away and escape while Billy's distracted, but Billy rouses himself just enough and grabs her by the leg and drags her back to the top of these stairs like an altar and pins her to the ground. The Russian Strangler... So Joyce comes to, and she, looks out from the observation area, and she sees that the Strangler and Hopper are still fighting. Steve radios to Dustin that they're almost out of fireworks, and therefore Dustin radios inside to Hopper and Joyce and Murray to hurry, close the gate now, because they can't communicate directly without Dustin being in the middle. Joyce takes off her belt and attaches it to one of the keys because she's hoping to use the belt to turn one off and, turn the other one off with her hand. The last thing we see here quickly is Max comes to, having been knocked out by her own brother. She wakes up Mike, who takes even longer to wake up, and that's when they both realize that 11 is missing and not with them.
Jeez. This is the second most intense scene in this episode. But, Hopper and the Russian Strangler are so close to this laser machine gate opening device that you're like, somebody's going to get super hurt, at least by this machine, if not by the other person.
Yeah.
The fireworks, the Satan's baby fireworks that Lucas, that it is working so well. Like, they're lighting them, and then they're throwing them like Molotov cocktails almost.
Right.
In perfect timing to where when they explode, they're right on the mind flare.
Yep.
Yeah, and Billy is getting that kind of black vein effect that we've seen.
Like a sympathetic injury.
Yeah, exactly. Like the hive mind kind of thing we saw Will experience last season. 11 comes to just enough to try to crawl away. Mike and Max now realize that 11's missing. And Dustin is like, now that he's getting all the pieces of information from the mall and relaying it to the people in the basement, Murray and Hopper and Joyce, he's really urgent. Right. Now it's like, do it now. Like, we don't have any more time to wait. The kids are, so everything's accelerating pretty quickly here.
Yep. Next scene is possibly one of the most amazing. We are still in the food court. Billy is holding 11 down, and she's looking up at him terrified, but there's some type of sympathy that comes over her, and she begins to tearfully recount to Billy. First she says 7 feet. You said the wave was 7 feet. And Billy immediately seems to know maybe what she's talking about. Yep. 11 goes on to recount that scene that we saw a couple episodes ago when Billy was on a beach surfing with his mom watching. 11 describes what his mom was wearing, her hat, her dress, her sandals. And we kind of, are led to believe maybe this was actually the last happy memory Billy had, because the last thing that Elle says, she says, "And you were happy," and she reaches up and touches his face. So intense.
now it's apparent now in this scene what what the purpose of Eleven's vision was there on the beach. Talking about Billy's experience with the surfing and, you know, being on the beach with his mom and all of that. It wasn't just to see kind of the source of everything, like that Steelworks building, but now 11 is almost like you see those really intense therapy sessions where somebody brings somebody back to a core memory that they've forgotten about. That's exactly what's happening here. 11 is like almost putting her finger right on, like acupuncture, right on the
most painful,
knot that Billy has emotionally.
Yeah.
Even through the possession of the Mind Flayer and all of that.
It cuts through.
She's getting right to the core of Billy himself. And he is listening to her.
He's absolutely paying attention to what she says, and his face is visually changing the more she recounts to him. Back to Hopper. He's pinned down, and it looks like his head's about to get chopped off by this laser whirring right by his head. But he rouses himself just enough to get back up, and he puts his finger, I think, in a bullet hole of the strangler to really injure him. And he says, "I'll see you in hell," which I don't really like that he said that, but he rouses just enough strength to throw the strangler into the whirring laser, and we assume it kills the strangler immediately. But it also creates such a disturbance that, like, energy is now not just shooting out, but it shoots like in all directions, like a spiral or a circle away from the laser itself. Meanwhile, Joyce is still struggling to reach both keys at the same time. Billy is standing now. He's gotten off from Elle from pinning her down. Billy stands and faces the monster. And the monster presumably is about to send out a tentacle and finish 11. But as the monster sends this tentacle out, Billy summons all his strength and actually stops the tentacle from hitting 11. The monster must realize what he's doing, because then the monster starts sending out other tentacles and it attacks Billy from all sides. And all of the kids there in the mall who had been throwing fireworks are just standing there looking on with like shock and horror. This is an absolute, like, I mean, this was one of the most shocking things I could have never guessed happening.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I was going to say. This is the plot twist. That, you know, in Stranger Things, we haven't actually seen a lot of plot twists.
That's true.
Like, we have very linear plot lines. It's not as though...
It's world building, so we don't know what's coming. But it's not always like, whoa.
Where now Billy, because of what 11 said to him, like we said, she cut through all of his emotional pain and trauma through the Mind Flayer's possession and touched him emotionally in a way that we didn't see coming at all. Everything so far, all the way through these first 3 seasons, everything has been, you know, brute force and 11 using her powers. But 11's not using any of her powers here.
That's true.
Other than just the power of what she's learned now out in the real world with... I'm just realizing this as I'm saying it. She was given the opportunity with Kali to use all of her powers just as they are on the table. To find these bad people so they could create all this vigilante justice or this revenge, this vengeance, kind of turn to the dark side. And we had said in that episode, the Lost Sister episode, that 11 actually was beaten to the punch. Kali was beaten to the punch, where Hopper and Joyce and Mike and Dustin and Will influenced 11 in what it means to be, you know, what to have an ethic and a moral. And so when Kali presents her this temptation, 11 has the agency to say no, because they might not have anything for me back there in Hawkins, but I can save them.
Right.
So here, her power that she's using is love and empathy and sympathy and
something that Kali did not.
Something that Kali could never understand.
Right.
And so because of what 11 has learned through the relationship and the sacrifice and the love that she has with Hopper and Mike and all the other kids and Joyce and the tenderness that she's developed out in the real world now, she's using that as a power at the end of this episode to end the monster through getting to Billy's heart.
Yep.
And so now Billy, in a way that we never could have saw coming, now stands as a shield between the goo monster and 11.
And sacrifices himself.
Helpless and sacrifices himself. And we see those, those tentacles get him on the sides. And the kids are out of fireworks anyway now.
Yeah.
And this is a great ending. Well, it's not even the end, but like a great ending of this monster anyway, or at least this storyline where 11's not using her, angry powers.
Right.
She's using her soft, tender kind of emotional connection powers.
We could have never guessed that of all the people we've been watching this episode specifically, that Billy was going to be the first to die. Like,
in a heroic way.
In a heroic way, too.
Billy was the hero of this episode.
Okay, Dustin yells, "Close it now!" And even though he needs to hurry, the scene very much slows down for a moment between Hopper and Joyce. So Hopper is beat up, but he's still looking back at Joyce with tears in his eye from the other side of this new force field.
The laser is like damaged in a way that it's sending out its power now in front of Hopper.
Yeah, in between Hopper and Joyce, there's this new force field, it looks like. At the same time that they're looking at each other, the monster sends out essentially a death blow directly towards Billy's heart and just annihilates his chest as Max yells, "Billy!" Back to Hopper, he essentially nods kind of and smiles at Joy as if to say, "It's okay, do it." So she nods, cries, closes her eyes, and she flips both keys off. I probably didn't pause there, huh?
Yeah. We didn't see what happened.
No.
We just know that both keys are turned off.
Well, the whole scene goes dark for what seems like forever. Like they cut a scene, like cut to black. Very interesting.
Yeah.
When we come back, the machine immediately starts disintegrating. The hazmat scientists that were essentially observing the same thing, but like one level down from Joyce, they disintegrate like we've seen before.
Yep.
So they take the brunt force of all this energy. And then upstairs, the monster, as soon as the gate starts to close, the monster staggers back from dealing with Billy and essentially falls down dead. When the smoke clears, Joyce is looking at the gate from the observation. She doesn't see Hopper in the lab. At the same time, Mike runs up to 11 to comfort her, and poor Max walks over to Billy and she tells him, get up, come on, get up. And Billy just says that he's sorry. And he essentially gives up his ghost right then and there, and Max begins to sob.
Yeah.
11, even in her pain, she goes over to hold Max, and just over and over, she says, "It's okay, it's okay." Joyce then walks from the observation level down into the lab to further investigate, and she starts sobbing when she can't find Hopper. About the same time, Murray has run in behind her and says, "Jim, where's Jim?" But Joyce doesn't have to say anything. Her silence says it all. Jim is no longer with us. At that moment, some of the remaining Russian military dudes that are in there, they run into the observation deck level. Murray sees them, so he and Joyce make a run for it out the bottom. At the same time, from the high hill, Dustin is the first to see U.S. military helicopters flying towards the mall. They land in the parking lot, and our old friend Dr. Sam is one of the first ones to step out at the mall. We see the mall's on fire. In the Russian lab, Joyce and Murray have crawled their way and made it back to that containment room where all the green goo is stored. And by the time they make it back there, the U.S. troops have stormed the building, and stormed this room already, and Murray's like, don't shoot, we're Americans. Dr. Sam has made his way down into the Russians' lair, and he's there just in time to essentially see the gate closing. And his eyes say it all, like, how did this happen again? Why is this happening again? Then everyone starts to emerge from the mall. So Joyce and Murray are coming up from down below. The kids are coming out from the main level of the mall. Joyce and Will find each other, and they start hugging. From that hug, it cuts to Eleven walking around, and you can tell she's looking for Hopper. But when Eleven looks at Joyce, she kind of can see it on Joyce's face that Joyce is so sad, and Eleven, I think, just realizes, Hopper's no more, and Eleven just starts bawling.
Oh, it's such a hard scene to watch it's such a switch between Will seeing his mom and the joy and elation that Will and Joyce have on each other's face to say, like, after all of this crazy battle trauma, they get reunited right there in the parking lot. And then we don't get to enjoy that moment for a second before we are thrust into remembering that now 11 doesn't get that moment with Hopper.
Yeah.
Boy, what a brutal moment. But Sam looking at the gate, like you said, his eyes say it all. He looks horrified, shocked, terrified, in some also way, like determined and resolved, all in that. Paul Reiser, I don't even know if he has any lines.
No.
But whatever they paid him for that look is probably not enough.
Yeah, and we know he's only there because an episode or two ago, Hopper calls the Philadelphia Public Library to get through to him, as if to say, hey, you need to come back to Hawkins because something bad's happening again.
Yeah, but Hopper's gone. We don't know what that means, but he's gone. Mm-hmm. And now, we're left with this parking lot of first responders. The mall is obviously ablaze because of all of the fireworks that were set off. 3 4th of July fireworks shows worth of fireworks were set off in that kind of central area. But the scene of the helicopters flying from that hill is such a cool. Is dozens of them.
Yeah,
it's not more. It's not just a couple.
No, it was. It makes sense because that would be the quickest way. You can't land an airplane in that parking lot, but for the military just to deploy helicopters quickly.
Yeah.
It was
each
really
carrying
cool.
probably the maximum amount of soldiers that you can, but they make their way down. They don't need a schematic map to get down to the Russian base. Yeah. They just right down there.
Okay, so from
it feels like the end of the episode. Like that's kind of the end of the main story.
Yep. It absolutely could have been. When we regain consciousness collectively as an audience, we first see that it's 3 months later, and then a very cheesy 80s newscast recap comes on of what had been happening in Hawkins. It's very cheesy. Hawkins is a great place to raise your family and walk your dog, but tragedy has struck there. And then the news recap shows a bunch of headlines from newspapers. We learned that 30 people died at the mall. On that same newspaper, we see a smaller headline that says that a hero chief had died in the fire with Hopper's picture. And it's a very conspiracy-oriented news. This is not just straight-up news. This is just cheesy, before reality TV type of news. It's all about, conspiracy. So they even show a picture of Bob and Barbara. These people went missing in Hawkins. There's a picture of a lab that's been in the news. They discuss a chemical leak that's happened in Hawkins. And, they're like, is this all a big government cover-up? We see that the mayor has been arrested due to corruption, Mayor Klein. And then they say, could it be Satan? So they're like, we hear that it could be Satanism on the rise there.
Because of Dungeons & Dragons. They show a Dungeons & Dragons guidebook.
But then, of course, as any true news story would do, they say, you can find out all these answers. You just have to tune in at 8 p.m. for Horror in the Heartland on Cutting Edge. So we're not telling you right now. It can wait till 8 p.m.
It's this really badly produced documentary conspiracy kind of thing. But it lets us as an audience know how the official story was kind of spun. That all these flayed individuals who ended up inside of the goo monster were just attributed to the casualties of the fire. As well as, and of course Bob and Barbara, their deaths have already been attributed to a chemical leak at the lab, they say. So they have cover-ups or at least plausible stories for all of these deaths.
Even to say that Hopper died in the same fire as everybody else.
Exactly.
So
now here they are at the moment where it's like, all right, all this stuff has happened. It can't be ignored anymore.
Right.
So now it's like national story that there's this small town in Hawkins, Indiana that has had all this stuff happen.
Yep.
And now it's kind of on the national stage and they can't escape it. It's even all of the official story. You can't sweep it under the rug.
Right. But now it's going to be so many more people in the know who have to be hush hush about it. So like Robin is a new person to the story and seeing the monster. Presumably all these firefighters and the soldiers.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the firefighters didn't know about any supernatural things going on. Maybe since they're Dr. Sam's soldiers, maybe they're
already some
privy,
special
privy to the supernatural element. But there's just going to, like, a whole lot more people are now going to have to be in on this hush-hush situation.
Crazy.
So from this silly news story, we cut to Robin and Steve, and they're arriving at the local video store. And we find out they're there to apply for jobs. And Robin tells the guy, it's not like we got fired, like the mall burned down. We don't have a job anymore.
Scoops Ahoy doesn't exist.
And it's our derpy friend from the arcade, and we found out his name's Keith.
The dumb-faced kid.
The dumb-faced derpy kid, Keith. And essentially, Robin interviews well, and he's like, you've got a job immediately, and then he tells Steve, you've got a job never. And then Robin makes Steve walk away, and Robin explains to Steve, like, you need to hire... Robin explains to Keith, you need to hire Steve because Steve attracts all the ladies no matter where he is. And there's too many ladies for Steve. He needs your help, Keith. So that's kind of a funny little scene.
Yeah, and Keith is also the guy who's always trying to get a date with Nancy. So we know that he's interested in the ladies that are way out of his league. And Robin is appealing to that, maybe without even realizing it.
Yeah.
That like Keith might hire Steve just based on the fact that he has some small percentage chance of catching the strays off of what Steve doesn't land in the ladies.
It's also funny to see Robin in normal clothing because we were introduced to her this season in the ice cream shop.
Only seen her in that weird sailor outfit.
So she looks like super cute and like, you know, like
Steve
like
too.
A normal person. Yeah, Steve's back to being his cool-looking self that we've kind of seen before in previous series. Now we are at the buyer's house, and we see Nancy and Jonathan are carrying a mattress out of the house because there's a U-Haul out front. Inside, Lucas and Max are helping pack some stuff, but not without making fun of Dustin, who's also helping. So Lucas and Max sing to each other the never-ending story, and they're like, come on, Dustin, join in. And Dustin's like, no, that song is for Susie's ears only. Will carries out a stack of things to put in the donation box, and Mike sees that one of those things is his copy of Dungeons & Dragons. And Mike's like, wait, that's the donation box. And Will's like, yeah, I'll just use your copy when I come to visit, if you still want to play. And Mike says, well, maybe you're going to join a party wherever you live, a different party. And Will's like, not possible.
Yeah.
And they both smile like the nerds they are. Nancy and Jonathan inspect his bedroom to see if everything's moved out. Nancy does not want to let him go and just suggests he can move into their basement, maybe hang out in Elle's fort. And Jonathan's like, I don't think Ted would like that.
But she knows that her parents would probably never find out.
Yeah, that's true too. Jonathan tries to comfort her and says it's all going to be okay. You know, a wise man once said about us that we have shared trauma. So what's a little bit more? 11 is packing up a closet, and up on a very high shelf, she sees a stuffed animal, and she tries to use her powers to summon it because she can't reach it. So she's trying, doesn't move. At the same time, Mike walks in and says, oh, don't. Mike essentially kisses her. He's like, don't worry, your powers will come back at some point. Then Mike and 11 begin to discuss their plans over the next couple months. Mike's like, I got permission to, come see you on Thanksgiving, and I hope that you and Will can come down here for Christmas. So they're talking about their plans, and then it kind of fizzles out, and the conversation gets real awkward. And then 11 brings it up. She's like, Mike, you remember that day that you and Max were talking in the cabin about feelings? And Mike's like, I don't know. It was so long ago. And he's stumbling over his words and memories. And she just tries to keep prompting him, but he's not getting it, or not at least willing to say it. So she walks right up to Mike and she goes, Mike, I love you too. And she gives him a big kiss, walks out of the room. Joyce is packing up a few more things when she notices the note that Hopper had written was still in his police uniform pocket. And 11 sees that she has a note, and 11's like, what is that? And Joyce is like, oh, this is the note that Hopper read to you and Mike that night. And 11's like, what? And Joyce says, the speech, about having a heart-to-heart. And 11's like, no. And Joyce is like, he never read that note, did he?
Yep.
And 11's like, well, can I read it now? And Joyce is like, yep, you can read it now. So 11 begins to read. She lays on the floor and starts to read the note. But as she's reading it, it's Hopper's voice that we hear reading the note. And then we cut to him in his cabin. He's pacing back and forth, kind of reviewing the letter. And he gets to that awkward part that he hasn't gotten past yet, where he gets to the word feelings. Then he sits down with a pen and he starts to write more about his feelings. It's a really amazing scene. It's intercut with scenes of the kids hugging goodbye. He's talking about his feelings some more. And then he just explains to 11, he's like, when I met you, when you came into my life, I started to feel good things again, like happiness. But lately, I just feel like you've been really distant from me. His narration continues as Joyce and 11 are in the U-Haul driving away. Jonathan and Will are in Jonathan's car driving away. We hear Hopper say, I understand you're getting older, but I'm just scared of change. We see Mike arriving home, giving his mom a big hug because he's so sad. We see Max at her house sitting by herself on a bed, presumably thinking about Billy. And then we see Dustin and Lucas present the donations box to Erica. So that's kind of a cool gesture.
Yeah.
It's got the D&D board game in there. Hopper finishes his letter by saying, don't let me stop you from growing up. You're going to make mistakes. Just learn from them. And when life hurts, you remember that hurt. Remember that pain, because that is a sign you're not in the cave anymore. Then he finishes by saying, and for the sake of your old dad, please keep the door open 3 inches. And 11's crying, but that makes her laugh. We're still at the buyer's house. Joyce walks in, asks her if she's okay. She says yes. Is it time to go? Joyce says yes. So 11 folds the note, puts it in her pocket, and she walks out with one last box, hands it to Jonathan. He puts it in the U-Haul, and they close the gate to the U-Haul.
Yeah, the reading that Hopper does of that letter makes us realize what he actually did was he didn't just scrap the whole idea of the letter because he thought Joyce was off her rocker.
No.
And then goes full aggression mode on Mike.
Right.
That's what ended up happening, but that's not what the intention was.
Right.
He sat down and rewrote it in his own words, sharing his actual feelings from his own voice, not what Joyce was telling him to say. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And perfectly poignant and wise as a father to his daughter. And as 11 is reading it, I think we also, especially what we just said about him, or 11 kind of using her emotional capacity as her superpower to Billy, it's almost as that's what Hopper is telling her to do here. Like, remember that pain, because that's what reminds you you're not in that cave anymore. It's like she's using her shared suffering, if you will, to get to Billy in that moment. And it's such a beautiful scene, even as we're experiencing all of this sadness as an audience, saying goodbye to the buyer's house. Now the party is splitting up. Eleven's going with the buyers, and Mike and Nancy are staying here. Jonathan's obviously leaving. Will's giving up any hope that they'll ever play Dungeons and Dragons again together, which just breaks our hearts.
Yep.
And 11 still doesn't have her powers, and yet we close this episode, or this scene anyway, at the end of this episode here with some great emotional moment between Hopper, who's gone, and 11, in this moment that we wish we would have gotten before, but are so thankful to have at least some visibility into
even if it's post-mortem.
Yes.
Like 11, she never doubted Hopper's love for her as a father.
Right.
Never doubted that.
Right.
That was evident in the last scene we saw them together in the mall. But she now has a token of that
yes.
piece of paper that's just going to set her on a whole different course.
And the fact that Hopper closes the letter with, and please, for the sake of your old man, keep the door open 3 inches. It shows you he was well-intentioned all along.
Yeah.
He really was just struggling with how to navigate it.
Yeah.
But he really did want the best for her.
Yeah.
And that's what we see here, is that he, even though his point in this whole thing was, please keep the door open 3 inches.
Yeah.
He wanted to get through all the other stuff to say, like, this is why.
This is why.
It's such a great dad moment.
Yeah. He's treating her like a teenager.
And now we're even so much sadder that he's gone.
Yeah.
Because we're like, Hopper's just the best.
Yeah. All right, y'all. It's almost the end of this episode. There's another quick scene, because it's interesting that in that scene, we see them all driving away, but the scene ends back with 11 still in that room finishing the letter.
Yeah.
But then we aren't done at the house yet, because then we have a very brief moment with Joyce as she's actually the last one to walk out of the house.
Yeah.
And she just kind of looks back into the house. I thought it was going to go into a flashback and we're just going to see everything that had gone on. But you just see the emotion on her face as she looks through her empty house, just the weight of having to leave that place or getting to leave that place. And she's the last one out and closes the door. Roll credits.
Yeah, it's almost as if we don't need the flashback.
Yep.
Because it's going on in our own mind.
Yep.
And it is sad because we know that she was planning on leaving the house anyway.
Yeah.
At some point or another.
Yeah.
Having it listed on the market and everything. But she doesn't get to leave on her own terms here. And so it's sad for that reason. It's sad that the party is splitting up, like everything we mentioned from the last scene.
Yeah.
But Winona Ryder is just such a great actress anyway. But like Joyce Byers sitting at her house, having to say goodbye to the walls and the floor and everything that we have come to know that's happened in that house. Not only do we see her, axing through her front wall and the lights flickering, all the terror that happened there, but also her sitting with Bob on the couch and her taking pictures of Will with the Ghostbuster costume, and Nancy and Jonathan staying over there, before they go to their job. Like all of these memories now, we have 3 seasons worth of memories of that house. And Joyce does it for us by just looking around. All of that flashes through our own mind.
Yep.
And then that's the end of the episode, the end of the season.
Except it's not.
So the credits start rolling.
And snow starts falling.
Yeah, through the background of the credits.
But then midway through the credits, we find out that we're in Kamchatka, Russia. And we see 2 prison guards walking past some cells. And one of the Russian prison guards is about to open one. And the other goes, no, not the American. So they open the cell next to that and they pull out a prisoner. And the prisoner just doesn't want to go wherever they're taking him. They drag him against his will, this prisoner, and they throw him into a containment pen. He's still begging, no, don't put me in here. But the guards aren't listening. They start cranking a door. And from behind the door comes a Demogorgon dog. And not only is it a Demogorgon dog, it stands up on its hind legs as if it's in its final phase of maturity.
Full Demogorgon.
And the last thing we see in season 3, presumably, is this Demogorgon dog attacking this prisoner. Roll the rest of the credits.
So...
what a classic thing to do, to make people wait for credits.
Well, and what they do is they didn't wait until the very end of the credits.
Yeah.
Like they kind of gave it's like an encore where the artist barely
that's
gets
true.
off stage before they come right back on because they didn't want you to miss it. Where it's they're singing this Russian kind of like anthem in the background, and it's snowy and it's super cold and it's bleak and it's dim inside this little prison or whatever. And they're going to open this door. It's like, no, not the American. And we're like, well, the American? Obviously, we don't know what happened. How would Hopper have possibly survived that?
Yeah. It's just loosely implied, but at the same time, we're like, there's no way. Like,
yeah, and what the Duffer Brothers didn't know here was that COVID was coming and that we were going to have to wait 3 years to find out what happened to Hopper.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. COVID. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What a great ending of the episode, though, to know, like, okay, there's more to the story.
Yep. And we're still in Russia for some reason.
And we're still in Russia.
Russia's involved.
Kamchatka, Russia. Get the rest of the credits.
Ooh.
This is why we love this show so much.
It sure is. It sure is. Yep. Well,
that's season 3. They put the if hanger in cliffhanger.
For sure, as in, if Hopper's still alive, I'm hanging right now for the next episode. I can't wait. Let's go. Season 4, episode 1.
I'll say, when I rewatch this, it's exactly what I did, and I think I'm going to do it again, because I need to give season 4, episode 1 another proper rewatch. Because I started it right after this, and I'm telling you, it's in a different key than this.
Okay.
So prepare yourself for what's coming in season 4. Again, it was 3 years later in our time.
Yeah.
It wasn't 3 years later in story time, but the kids really are 3 years older.
Sure.
And I mean, all of the change that we saw happening here at the end of this episode is how season 4, episode 1 starts. But I stopped it halfway through because I realized I wasn't giving it my proper attention. And so I'm going to stop and rewatch it.
Stay tuned. Come along on the rest of the journey with the Hawkins Observer.